This video today is going to be about just what God was doing in my ministry. I told you guys a couple stories, guy from Hawaii that I met and then ended up running into this dude in Hawaii 10 years later. There's a lot of things in the book that I'm writing that a lot of suicides, a lot of kids in gangs, a lot of adults in gangs. One of the guys that I would meet, I called him Tattoo, and this kid was just tattooed all the way up, had tattoos on his face, but every piece of his body was tattooed. And I would meet this kid on the streets, and he was a rough dude. He had done some time, he had stabbed somebody, and we were in San Clemente at the time, and what I noticed in San Clemente was just these guys, man, the culture there was so different than anything that I had seen before. Because when you're in the ghettos, you got a lot of kids that are poor, you got a lot of people, well, in San Clemente, you got a lot of people that are wealthy. But those wealthy kids have the same battles that we have in our lives. Those same kids, sorry guys, those same kids are they've got everything, which really blows my mind because I've never been rich. I've never been in a place where I could do this. But the one thing these kids, every single denominator, every single thing that's the same was their parents were working for money, but the kids were miserable. The kids were drug addicts, but their parents didn't know because they're never home. They were being raised by their nannies. They spoke Spanish just as well as they did English, which is awesome. But when your nanny is raising you, the hurt and the pain that the quarterback of the football team in San Clemente at the time, you know, this young kid was a friend of mine, and his dad was a big hoity-toity lawyer guy for these big corporations. And this poor kid, man, he was trying to commit suicide. He was hyped out on heroin all the time, and he would come to me and he'd talk to me, and I'm just like, dude, we've got to let your dad know. He's like, he doesn't care. I'm like, why are you doing this, dude? You're a stinking state champion football player. Like, why are you doing this? He's like, I'm just trying to get my dad's attention. He's like, you know, my dad doesn't come to my games. He doesn't know how good I am. He doesn't care because he's out making money and that's all he cares about. And the reality is it wasn't all he cared about. He cared about his family, but he was so passionate about making that money that his kids were stinking dying. You know, they were struggling, they were hurting inside, they were going out and doing stupid things. And I heard that story after story after story. You know, the couple stories back, I talked about this kid that I met on the tables, and he was in a gang, and he went and got beat out of his gang. You know, 15, 16-year-old kid carrying $60,000 worth of dope around, or cash, one or the other, depending on what time of day it was. And this kid went and got beat out of his gang, and his mom and dad took him back, and I just couldn't understand it because I wasn't from wealth, and I didn't get it. And you know, I'd run into movie stars and all these things over the years as a plumber and just with my ministry and all these famous people, and the thing that kept coming up was, I wish my parents, I would give it all up to have my parents. And it's heartbreaking to me because I don't know how to relate to that. I don't know how to relate because I'm pursuing money to survive. These kids are spending more a week than I make just in their allowances, and they can't find peace and happiness because they have no family life. And that started to crush me, man. And there was this one kid, I was surfing, paddle out, and San Clemente can be rough sometimes, especially back in the day. And I paddle out on my longboard, and this kid's out there with a couple of his friends, and he's like, hey man, shortboards only. And I just, whatever, dude, just leave me alone. I'm surfing, you know, I'm trying to keep focused. This kid doesn't know me, I don't know him. And I'd been surfing there for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, same spot every day, 7 o'clock in the morning with my friends. And I paddled out, and she's like, hey, shortboards only, man. Little high school kid. And I'm like, nah, dude, we're good. I go, I'm gonna go ahead and surf, you can mind your own business. And I just kind of joked with him. I said, I'll be up long before you anyways, because in shortboarding, they have to really be in the lip of the wave when they take off. In a longboard, I don't need a wave. I can just stand up and it seems like the air will take you if you're on a big enough board. So I'm out there on my board and I'm surfing. This kid starts flinging his board at me. Every time I go by, I see his board, no leash, just fly past me. And he's a minor, so I can't just go over there and drown the kid. You know, I'm just like, man, I'm starting to get mad. I'm just trying to do my surf thing, relax. And this kid's just irritating me up, dropping in on every wave that he could. And, you know, I finally told him, I said, bro, you keep that up, man, I'm gonna run right across your back. You know, you need to stop dropping in on me. And he's like, what? And then he started getting all tough because he thought he was a tough guy. And I just smiled at him. He's like, you don't know who you're messing with, bro. You don't know who I am. My mom's the senator or the mayor or something. And I'm like, yeah, dude, but who are you? I don't care who your mommy is or your daddy is. Who are you? What have you given to the community to deserve the spot that you're in right now? And he looked at me kind of funny and he's like, what? And I go, what have you done to deserve the spot that you think you belong in, you know, to get that authority? Well, you don't know my mom, you don't know my dad. And I was like, yeah, and I don't care who they are. I don't care because I'm not talking to them, I'm talking to you. And what are you contributing to the city of San Clemente except just being a punk kid in the water that's leeching off his mom and dad? And this kid was just like, whoa, and all his friends, you know, they're kids, they're mocking him, they're laughing and everything. Oh, bro, that sucks, man. You know, and I wasn't trying to hurt the kid. What I was trying to do was get him to understand where he was at. Well, he'd fling his board at me again, so what I did is this time I grabbed it as I surfed by because it was riding the wave with nobody on it. So I picked it up and I surfed it in and threw it on the beach, turned around and paddled back out. And I go, man, you should get a leash for that thing, bro. Because I let him do this a dozen times before I finally had it. And that's when he got mad and his friends were teasing him. He's like, bro, what the heck, man? Now I gotta swim all the way in. I go, yeah, that's why I say you should get a leash, you know. And he paddles out. I take a couple waves and he starts threatening me when he comes back out. Bro, wait till you get out of the water, man. You're done, this and that. So I get out of the water, I sit there on the wall and wait for him for a little bit while I dry off and rinse off and stuff at the showers, and nothing ever happens, you know, he's scared to get out of the water. So, big talker, just like most kids, and we end up the very next day, what he didn't know is who I was, because he never asked, but the very next day was one of my first surfing competitions that I had ever put on at the San Clemente Pier at that time. We had a big sign-up table, and Tommy Curran had come by and a bunch of pro surfers that liked the ministry and were part of some of the stuff going on in the surfing culture. So it was a big deal. Like, there was a lot of guys there. Tommy signed a board and gave it away, but I was there dealing with this competition. I walked up to the tables and we're signing kids in for the competition. And all of a sudden this kid, I see him walking up with this board and his wetsuit, and he just turns around and starts to walk away. So I jumped up, I go, hey, where are you going? I go, aren't you gonna surf today? And he's like, no, man, I'm good. You know, I don't wanna be part of this. And I go, well, you came down with your wetsuit and your surfboard. You got your $5 in your hand. Looks like you were gonna get in line. I go, you got an issue? And he's like, no, I just, you know, it's not. I go, listen, man. I go, it's cool, dude. Don't worry about it. I go surf. See what's up, enjoy yourself, doesn't matter. And after the competition, I walked up, he signed up, and after the competition, I walked up to him, I go, so how'd you do? And I knew that he didn't make it past the first round. I go, so how'd you do? Did you win? I'm just harassing the kid, and he's like, no, man, I got knocked out in my first heat. And I go, wow, that sucks and stuff. And he's like, listen, man, I'm sorry, I didn't know who you were. I go, yeah, but what you did is, you just judged me because you thought you could. You started judging me for my longboard, shortboards only, because that's what people were doing at the time. I go, what you didn't ask is who I was. You didn't ask me if I've surfed there. You just said, I never seen you here before. And I'm like, because you don't look, you know, and I haven't seen you either. because I don't look, you know, it's not, it's one of those things. And the bottom line was he judged me based on what he saw, not based on who I was. And once he found out that I was part of the competition and, you know, we were over there giving these boards away and this and that, he felt like a gigantic piece of trash. And it wasn't my part to make him feel bad. What I was trying to do was get him to understand that he needs to be his own person. And if you're going to use your mom and dad as an example, and you're going to say my mom's the mayor or the senator or the president, you better be a good example for them. You better take that ability to use that name. You know, when my kids say, hey, I'm Joe's son or I'm Joe's daughter, I want people to go, oh man, that's so awesome. You know, your dad's a great guy. He does this, he did that. And I've been all over the country, and I've been in situations where people actually walked up and said, hey man, are you so-and-so? And I'm like, dude, what are the odds of that? You know, I wasn't YouTube and I wasn't famous. It's just people that I came across in my life in the surfing industry. And, you know, it's one of those things, you guys, we need to remember as people, and that was the whole point of bringing that into the book, was to help kids understand that you can be your own person, but don't live in the shadows of something your parents did. Okay, if you're a football player or a baseball player and your dad was a semi-pro or a pro or whatever, that doesn't mean you have to do that. If you're passionate about it, then do it. Do it, and do it with all your heart for yourself. But if you're trying to do something to prove to your parents how great you are at something that was their dream, there's going to be a disappointment at some point, because you're going to live someone else's dream and not your own dream. Now, if that dream is yours, okay, so my son, I grew up a skater, surfer, grew up surfing or skating pipeline, and all the big wigs were there as kids back in the 80s. And, you know, they're all pros, they're all millionaires now, they're all very successful. And I wasn't a good skater. I wasn't good enough to be like that. I didn't compete. I just did it to clear my head and party. And my son, I started him skating when he was in diapers, putting him on ramps, putting him on skateboards with me. And by the time he was 6 years old, he was boosting airs out of half pipes. He was boosting airs off of concrete ramps in Kauai. And you know, they had a really rough asphalt skate park there at the time. And we'd spend 13 years going there every day. And he got to the point where he was literally a pro level skater. But I didn't want him doing that for me, because I was passionate about skating. I wanted him to be passionate. So when he quit skating for a little bit, I supported it. I said, okay, if that's what you want to do, go play basketball, go surf, go skate, go do whatever you want, dude. It's up to you. And, you know, that's one of those things that, you know, my daughter rode horses. She wanted a job, so she started using her horses as a training for kids in Kauai, and she actually started her own little lessons thing and started making money doing that. And then we moved to Texas, and she was like, I think I want to do Zumba. So she got into Zumba and was teaching people how to better their lives and be healthy, and it brought her joy and happiness, you know. And you're not going to be a millionaire from a Zumba class, but she did okay from it. But more than that, she was able to bless people, and she was able to build relationships with people, which is so much more important. When you can go to a skate park and hang out with the local guys and like, bro, are you a surfer, or are you a pro or what? You're like, no, man, I just skate. It's cool, you know. And it breaks a barrier there where now you're part of their culture. It's not just a surf skate thing, it's a culture. Just like being a cowboy is a culture. You live a lifestyle. There's a dress code, a music code, a style to that. And I would just say, you know, if you're doing something because you're being pushed to do it, you're never going to find joy in it. If you're doing something because you're stressed in it, you're never going to find who you are. And who are you called to be? What is your ministry? What's the gift that I believe God gives everybody a gift? What is your gift? And that's what I would challenge you to seek today, is what is your gift and how do you use it to be the happiest you can be in life? And don't do something for the money if you're not going to be happy with the outcome, because if that money isn't going to bring you joy and that money isn't going to bring you peace, you're never going to find it in it. Then don't waste your time with it. Do something you enjoy doing. And that's not to say, and please don't take that wrong, don't quit your jobs, don't go out and quit school because you don't like school. You know, don't quit unless you know that God's called you specifically to do something different. And you'll know because he'll put that thing in your path. He'll put that thing in your destiny. You'll know that you're passionate about it, and then go all in. And don't just give it a quarter or a half or an eighth. Go all in, man. When you find it, do it. As long as it's making you happy, that's what matters. Okay? Maybe someday it'll buy you a mansion and a boat and a fancy car, but it doesn't have to. And if you think that it does have to, you're going to put yourself through a lot of stress in life. So, hope this helps you guys, man. I'll talk on the next one. I'm just moving through the book again. You know, that story with this surfer kid would lead me to a place in my life where I realized that it doesn't matter who your parents are, who your friends are, who the people in your circle are. What matters is where are you and what are you called to be in your life. And I would challenge you, seek your calling, seek what you're called to do in life, and don't waste time chasing things that you're not called to be part of. So subscribe, like, you know, get us out there, you guys. I hope these videos don't bore you too much. I hope you're getting something out of them. And if you know somebody they can help, please send it on the way. All right, we'll talk to you later.